Hi, welcome back to my channel. This is episode 3 of Open the Door. Today's focus is about control. So, did you know that you could gain control by letting go? I know it sounds crazy, right? Well, let me explain. Stick around, and we're going to talk about the key of control, gaining control by letting go. So, it's time for us to get realistic about what we can and cannot control. And by trying to control things that we can't, we bring about fear, stress, and anxiety, as well as physical, emotional, and psychological issues, all centering around our need to control. So I want to talk today about what we can and cannot control, how we can improve our thought process around issues having to do with control, and what that brings, the benefits that brings with letting go of control. So first, I'll talk about what we can't control. And a lot of this is common sense, but maybe it'll reach someone who needs to hear it today that has heard it before and hasn't really taken it to heart. One of the main things we try to control that we're unable to is others, other people, their behaviors, their thoughts, their actions, their beliefs, their perceptions, their words. These are all things that we literally have no control over, but try to control at times in hopes of gaining an outcome that we feel would be for our greatest and highest good. So all these aspects of others, we can't control that. Another thing, when I was thinking about this, making this video, one of the main 2 points I came up with was we cannot control the past and we cannot control the future. A lot of times we spend energy and are placing our thoughts in the past and finding ourselves in regret and sometimes even anguish, and get stuck in old belief patterns and behaviors and thought processes that occurred during this past experience. And so much regret can come up with that when we look back and see our mistakes or what we perceive as the mistakes of others. I'm going to talk about how to release that control and the benefits that come with that, with the past and the future, a little bit later. But I want to move on to the next item, which is the future. And just like with the past, we spend a lot of time and energy focusing on what might happen, what we hope will happen, what we think will happen, anything to do with our future actions and activities. And this brings about worries of fear and anxiety. We make up scenarios in our head of how we think something's going to play out. We project our fears and anxiety onto that future event, and all in a needless form to try to control what's going to happen next. Now, there's some things that we can control that have to do with the future. If we have a big project coming up, well, of course, we need to do our preparations. I'm not saying let go of control of everything, but we need to be realistic about what we can and cannot control. So if it's something in the future that you're worried about and you know that you've got things to do to prepare for that, well, by all means, be a responsible adult and do those things. But try not to place control and worry and fear on aspects of our future that we literally have no control over. Another talking point that I came up with when I was thinking about what we can't control would be nature, Mother Nature. So weather, anything to do with the planet. Again, we can take control by being responsible humans on Mother Earth. But as far as weather patterns and things like that, we really have no control over it. So it's wasted energy if we're getting upset about a rainy day or a snowstorm. It literally doesn't change what's happening. So acceptance is a big part of the control. In fact, along with acceptance, or letting go of control, I should say, another big part of acceptance is surrender. So others, the past, the future, natural events, no, we can't control those things. But what we can control is our own thoughts, our own words, our own behaviors, our actions, our choices, and our daily habits, having to do with our wellness and just overall well-being. We can control our beliefs and our perceptions, and our desire to shift our perspective away from trying to control everything else and just accepting that we're responsible for ourselves. The only thing we truly have control over is this present moment how we respond to it. And as I said, our thoughts and actions and words. So when we're letting go of control, when we're working on letting go of control over the past, something that's already happened, and there's no way to go back and redo it, how do we come to terms with that? How do we finally release control of that situation? Well, what I found is looking deeper past the pain for the lesson in that experience, and spending some time contemplating and reflecting on that lesson and how it applies to your life, how it can bring you to a better version of yourself. Once we take that lesson to heart, we're going to gain some wisdom. And so the way we gain control over this past experience is by looking for the lesson, gleaning the wisdom within it, assimilating that into our heart, our behaviors, our thought processes, and letting the rest of it go. So another way to say that would be take what is needed and leave the rest behind. The same would be true about the future. Of course, we can't look into a future experience for the lesson and the learning until we've gone through it. But what we can do is place positive expectations on that experience. Set positive intentions for that experience to go well, instead of looking at worst case scenario and thinking what's the worst thing that could happen. Switching that thought process into expecting positive outcomes and expecting the best possible scenario. So, and also, as I mentioned earlier, being prepared if it's something that's coming up in the future and you have a responsibility to that experience, then you need to be responsible and get ready for it. When we're thinking about what we can let go of when it comes to control having to do with others. As I talked about in my last video, a lot of this has to do with thought process and a shift in perception and in thinking. So if we're challenged with another's behavior, thoughts, words, or actions, and we're wanting to control that, what we need to do is kind of take a step back and get a higher perspective and realize that we are a growing, changing being. We learn more and it changes us a little bit more every day. So let's allow for that to be true in others as well. So allow for the change that you see in others. Come from a space of unconditional love and acceptance in meeting them right here and in the now. And if they say or do something that is not congruent with what you think they should be doing, just place in your heart unconditional love and forgiveness, and remember that they're a growing and changing, evolving being as well. So allowing grace for others, and again remembering that the only control we really have is over ourselves. When we're finally able to start letting go of control and accepting that the majority of what goes on around us we have no control over, when we really assimilate that into our thought process, we start to find that we feel a relief, a sense of peace, even a sense of freedom, because we're not worried about so many things anymore, which allows our energy to flow into our own selves, bringing about self-love and acceptance. And it can shift our perspective and our way of looking at the world around us, and maybe take some pressure off, knowing that control is not all that we think it is. The real key to letting go is acceptance and surrender. So this is my message for today. Hey, I ordered that audio equipment and most of it is here, and I'm working on getting it set up. I'm about 90% there. I just had to order a couple little more parts to get the audio equipment together. And hopefully within the next week or so, I'll be able to put out a sound bath video for you as well. But in the meantime, you get these talking head videos with hopefully bits of wisdom and encouragement to help you open the door to your healing process. Thank you for joining me. Have a great day, and I'll see you again soon.